And we are live on YouTube. So, Dune, the highly anticipated, much anticipated Dune is finally out in theaters, and I saw it. I actually saw it opening night on I guess last Thursday, and I'm just now getting a chance to put together a video on it. Yeah, this was a good movie. And I gotta tell you, as a science fiction, fantasy, genre fiction fan, it is nice to have a good movie out. Um, and actually, looking back on 2021, I think I think I'm gonna look back on this. Like 2020 was kind of a lost year, right? But I think I'm gonna look back on 2021, and it's gonna be a year full of high highs and low lows. Um, Dune was good. Dune is good. I'm gonna talk about the movie, and I'm not gonna be at all concerned about spoilers. Um, this is a book that is it's a story based on a book that has been out since I was a child, and I'm not a particularly young man. Um, and and it's been made live action on several occasions already, all of which I've seen. So yeah, not going to dodge spoilers on this too much, but also I'm not going to have to talk about too many because really this covers, kind of early portions of the first book, which is a lot of story, and the whole Dune saga is far more than just that first book. So yeah, even if I fully spoiled, or yeah, I guess what I would say is don't avoid spoilers on this movie. Um, Consume whatever spoilers you need to get you to go see it. And I think you'd be treating yourself if you saw this movie because it's good, it's entertaining, it's gorgeous, and also uh, you should probably see it in the theater. It's I haven't watched it on HBO Max. I could watch it on like a 27-inch monitor or on my television if I felt like it, and I think it would hold up. Maybe not sound wise, but visually, it's going to look gorgeous there. But wow, this is quite a spectacle in the theater. So not avoid spoilers if that's what you need to get you to go see this movie, because you should go see it. I'm very pleased that I did. But yeah, I think I'll look back on 2021 and be hyper disappointed about movies like Black Widow, about movies like Shang-Chi. Um, Those two stand out. Oh, Venom: Let There Be Carnage. That was fine, I guess. Um, I think I'll look back on those in disappointment because of what I have grown accustomed to from from Marvel specifically. I think I'll look back and be disappointed. But I'll also look back at things like the Snyderverse and wow, being able to have DC really impressed me, and the Snyderverse really impressed me. Being able to have DC do that after particular. Oh, the other one I was thinking about of just jaw droppingly bad was the Wonder Woman 84. Holy crap! I can't believe that movie as is made it out of the studio. Like wow, there was so much to not like about that movie. But yeah, so looking back, there's those that are disappointing, and but things like the Snyderverse and being able to have DC wow me, like they did it kind of by accident with the Joker. Almost this movie they were trying to disavow, and it ended up making $1 bajillion and winning every award known to man. Because it was like spectacular, right? It was just a very good story, incredibly well told. And I understand it's a rehash of other stories, but they did a great job on a Joker film. I think they did a great job, or if Zack Snyder, I guess we should give him the credit. Yeah, even though the studio chipped in the money to let him finish it, did a great job with the Snyder cut. Yeah, if 4-hour movies aren't your jam, you may not like it, but I loved it. I would take as much of that as they were willing to dish out. But I think movies like Zack Snyder's Justice League. I think movies like Dune, that I'm going to talk about today, um, and movies like The Suicide Squad, again, another DC movie that was really impressive, I think. Um, I think those would be kind of highlights of the year. And I'm really, fingers crossed here. I'm really, really hoping that the crowning achievement is going to be the upcoming Ghostbusters movie. Um, I have very little hope for the Eternals. It comes out this weekend. I'll probably see it on Thursday. Um, Marvel, you've hurt me before, but judging by the critic scores, they will do it again. I don't have a whole lot of hopes for that, but my expectations for the Eternals are so low that maybe I'll be impressed. I just want to enjoy it. I just want to go to a Marvel movie and have fun again. And I'm gonna do a video on Shang-Chi, but I wanted to have fun with Shang-Chi so bad, but it was just so dumb. There were anyway. I'll do a whole video on that. Let's talk about Dune though, because Dune is not dumb. Dune was fantastic. Um, is it the book? No, of course not. It took almost 3 hours to get through. I don't know, 25%, 30% of the book. But we have the book, right? If you want the like internal monologues of every character, we have that. We have the book for that. What this movie was a live action adaptation of that. And while somebody might take 3 or 4 days, 2 weeks, a month to chew through that book, we could sit down and in 3 hours really get a wonderful representation of Arrakis and of that world and of that universe. Even the movie stands up to the epic scope of that novel really well, I think. General gist of the story, if you've never read Dune, if you've never seen any other live action adaptations, haven't seen any of the plot synopsis of this, is far future. I think it's 20,000 years, something 40,000 years, can't remember. Into the future, humanity has spread across the galaxy, across the universe, and there's a substance, spice. The spice must flow from one planet Arrakis, Dune itself, that enables intergalactic travel, right? So it's hugely important. That is the thing that everybody's after. There's one, and humanity is kind of reverted back to a type of like feudalism. There's lords, there's barons, that these ruling houses, and an emperor who sits above them all. One house is rising in power. That's House Atreides. One house is militant and powerful and brutal, and that is Harkonnen. I think they call it Harkonnen in the movie. I always read it as Harkonnen. I think it's spelled Harkonnen. That control Arrakis, and they are in league with the Emperor to destroy Atreides, who's kind of like this house in ascension. They're a threat to the Emperor. So yeah, the Emperor and the Harkonnens devise a plan to expose the House Atreides, put them in a position of weakness, and then wipe them out. And then this young man in House Atreides is kind of destined to rule after his father, and is also being positioned by kind of the mystics, the magic users essentially of this world, to not only rule after his father's passing, but also kind of ascend as this peace-giving figure in humanity across the universe, right? So lots of people have big plans for him. So that's the general gist, and we don't get very far into that that plot line in this movie. Just because the story is so grand and so expansive, and that's fine, assuming fingers crossed we get a sequel. I would be there opening day for a sequel to this in a heartbeat. So if you're listening, studio, please do greenlight that and make it. I don't care if it's a series on HBO Max or made for HBO Max movie or a theatrical release. I think this 2021 Dune outing justifies the sequel. But let's talk a little bit about some of the characters. Let me hop over to this view. Actually, yeah, let's start with Paul. So yeah, Timothy Chalamet plays Paul Atreides. Um, I saw some in previews and stuff. I saw some people complaining a little bit about him as Paul. Um, he's he's very much a young actor for this role compared to the other live action versions of Paul that we've seen, who had young but still men playing the role. I didn't have any problem with Timothy Chalamet. Like say he's too waifish, he's too girlish. I think they actually made and I think he acted the role well, but I think they made a young man um, and did a good job both with the casting and the portrayal of Paul um, in as if I don't know if he's supposed to be 15, 16, 17 years old, but they did a good job portraying him, and I think he looks appropriate for that role. Like I have children um, about his age, and that is the build that they have. So I didn't really see him as feminine looking or androgynous. He's a young man, um, and just at the start of entering into manhood and entering into his prime, and I think he looked the part. Um, he had pretty good emotional range. Obviously, he's kind of the central character of the story, so he had a central role in this movie, and um, I think he did a great job. Some of the emotional scenes with him, some of the outbursts and stuff that he had were, I think, well acted and kind of as you would expect for the character. Um, he also has combat roles in this, and I think in addition to Timothy Chalamet acting the character well, I think they, eh, as movie makers, laid the groundwork for him to be a believable combat force. Like he's not going toe to toe with adult males and beating them through physical force like we see a lot of female fighters do in some of these movies. They just stand toe to toe and trade blows with unrealistically trade blows, not even unrealistically, completely outside of the realm of belief, trade blows with these huge trained physical fighters. Character like Wonder Woman, who isn't human, right? Trading headbutts with Superman, who also isn't human. Sure, we can believe that, but when we see a character like Black Widow, obviously like uh, as a character trained for all of her life to be a martial combatant, she should be good in a fight, but her strength is not going to be going toe to toe trading haymaker blows with a male opponent. That's just not the way she would fight. So they do a pretty good job with Chalamet setting him up to be a fast and lethal fighter because he has to be. He lives in a brutal world. There will be people who are trying to either take advantage of him or hurt him, and he has to be able to defend himself. He can't do it through strength. He's got to be fast and he's got to be like lethally brutal. So they set that up early, and it comes into play a few times over the course of the movie. So I think a good job with him. Lady Jessica, Paul's mother. I actually had to look up Rebecca Ferguson. She was familiar. I couldn't remember from what. It's from the Mission Impossible movies. I think she was great. She looks a little young to be Paul's mother, but more and more, everybody's starting to look a little young to me. I think she did a great job. I didn't remember her from the Mission Impossible movies, so when she was on screen, I was like, "Ah, I know her from somewhere." But I think she was really well cast, even if a little on the young side. I think that's fine. As one of the Bene Gesserit, one of the things that spice does is it's also used as a drug in addition to, kind of enabling intergalactic commerce and travel. It's a mind-altering drug, and it also has some physical. In the books, it has some physical effects. Like I think long life is one of them. So anyway, there's some in-story reasons why she might look that young. I didn't think it unbelievable. My wife, for instance, looks far younger than I, and I don't think she looks young enough where she could be our children's sister, right? She definitely looks like a mature woman as opposed to our kids. But at any rate, that wasn't a deal breaker for me. I think she did a great job. Her character in the books has some. It's not all sunshine and roses for the princess of House Atreides, let's just say, and I think she's done a good job laying the groundwork for some of the more troubled, more emotional stuff she has coming up. I think she did a great job. Zendaya, not really in this movie. Um, she shows up in a couple dream sequences and like for 5 minutes at the end. Um, I know she's hit or miss for some fans, but I think she looked great in the couple scenes she had. Again, didn't really have a part. She kind of like Dave Batista. I didn't even pull up an image for him. He's not really in the movie, like he's there, but doesn't really have a role. Just kind of pops in and like, oh, there's that famous person. Um, but I think she'll be fine. One of the standouts for me is Oscar Isaac as Duke Leto. Um, he's a cool looking dude. From what I hear, he's an amazing actor. The only thing I've ever seen him in that I can remember is the Star Wars sequels, and I, I don't know if there's any acting that can save those movies and his role. He's almost incomprehensible in the first movie. Like he makes some really dumb decisions in the opening scenes, then apparently dies, then pops in at the end like, I was fine the whole time, and then only gets dumber in the as a character, not as an actor. Only gets dumber in the second and third movie of that trilogy. Um, so to see him shine in a role that's actually well written and in a good story was kind of cool. Good for Oscar Isaacs. He was fantastic, and I'm glad he got the screen time that he did in this movie. If they had tried to cram the entire Dune book into one like 3 hour film, he would have had he would have only had such a small amount of screen time that it was nice to see that they committed the first third of the book or whatever this is to a longer movie to give him time to shine, because I think he did. You really felt for this guy and for his family, and with so many characters and such a grand story you're setting up to to make us care in for him and his family in particular. I think was a job well done. So yeah, I loved Oscar Isaac. Jason Momoa, I thought was fantastic as Duncan. I always hear people saying like, "Oh yes, Jason Momoa playing Jason Momoa in another movie," and yeah, you can, especially early in the movie when he still has his beard, you're like, and that's Jason Momoa doing his thing again. But I don't know. There's only so many people out there who can play Jason Momoa. Like if they got somebody else to play the Jason Momoa role in this movie, like who would they get? I mean, The Rock's pushing 50, I think, at this point. Like he's close to my age. He can still pull it off. Dave Batista is in this movie. I mean, there's just not Jason Momoa fills that kind of like Arnold Schwarzenegger role in movies these days, and I think he's a better actor than Arnold. Right? Arnold was like the kind of definitive action hero for a lot of my life, frankly. But as we've seen painfully in the recent Terminator installments, He's not that anymore. So there's kind of a short list of characters that can fill that role, and Jason Momoa is kind of at the top of that list. So yeah, it is Jason Momoa playing Jason Momoa in another movie, but I'm glad they had him as Duncan. I think he did a fantastic job, and the way that Duncan's character in particular, I think, would be easy for a studio, for a movie maker to say, "Oh, let's take some liberties away from the story, away from the book." And the way because it's easy to like Duncan, right? So like, oh, maybe we could just keep him around and use him a little bit more in the film. But they use Duncan, I think, as intended, as the story was written, right? As the source material required. And I think the movie's better for it. Um, to, just did a great job, and I don't have a problem with Jason Momoa being Jason Momoa in a movie that wants him. Um, Man, gotta tell you, Stellan Skarsgård. Um, After seeing him in mostly in Marvel movies, I've seen him in a couple other things, but he was spot on for me as the Baron. He wasn't as over the top as the like 1980s. I think it was made in the 80s. The other feature length Dune show. I liked that Baron. He was over the top, and he was just kind of gleeful and hedonistic, and um, the Baron in Stellan Skarsgård's Baron was much more kind of brutal and manipulative and Machiavellian. And in the book, he was that too, but he was also just gluttonous, just disgusting and hedonistic and carnal. Um, they focused more on the kind of brutally manipulative parts of the Baron, and honestly, I'm for it. So you didn't quite get the kind of cackling maniacal moments with the Baron like you did in the 80s movie. Um, and I, I I thought at first I was kind of missing that, and they were making a misstep with this character. But the more I have a few days of distance from the film, I really like that. Um, there was one scene in particular, and I said I was going to talk about spoilers. There's one scene in particular where there's an assassination attempt on the Baron, and in the 80s movie, when he survived it, he's got this scene like "I live," and he goes floating up into the air because he's got like implants and stuff that let him levitate or fly. Um, and it's just this like childlike but glee that he has, but it's kind of like the I tear apart my toys and tear the wings off insects kind of glee. uh, and in this, they use that moment to actually like hide, like, did he live? Did he not? If you've read the book, if you've seen any of the other Dune material, he lives. So why would they hold that? But they did. And I'm going to use this as a moment to talk about something. This movie, well, Dune as a property is something that's like, oh, it's too heady, it's too deep geek. Like you have to be a fan of the property to like it, and people aren't going to respond to this movie. Um, they did a couple things. They did enough work that I think viewers who have no experience with Dune get it and have a chance to like the story. So they did enough work with the script and the screenplay to have that be true. Two, they were brutal enough in the writing process and the editing to cut away things that diehard fans of the book might criticize the movie for not having included. But for people who, and this is most people, who haven't read the book, I would argue that there's probably more people who will see this movie who have not read the book and won't, that will. They did enough work paring things away that weren't absolutely necessary for the movie story they were telling. That somebody coming in as a complete Dune novice, like a sci-fi fan, but having never read the books or seen the other younger viewers and things, they will still get it and not feel like half the things happening on the screen don't make sense. If you're a purist, a Dune like novel lore purist, and you've read four of the books and some of the follow-on series and spin-offs and stuff, some of the Erickson stuff, yeah, maybe you're like, oh, they didn't, the Mintets, that their eyes roll up and they do all the math. They didn't. They gave them short shrift, or the Doctor was going to bring up, and his betrayal kind of weren't set up enough. Like, yeah, fine, but we have the book for that. Um, when so much of Hollywood now is remakes, right? And not just remakes of books, but remakes of other movies. And then, when the source material isn't honored, right? They destroy a character or whatever. People get upset. The fans get upset. But I think there is enough respect, and in fact, an incredible amount of respect for the source material here, while acknowledging that they still need to tell a cohesive story for people that haven't read the books. I think they towed that line really, really well with Dune. And that's nice to see, because that line has not been towed very well, an awful lot recently. So yeah, the Baron, I think they did a fantastic job with him. And I gotta say, holy crap, Stellan Skarsgård, what a performance! Um, and and that bodes really well for sequel potential here, because he's important, right, in this Dune movie, but he's got so much left to come. Um, Javier Burton, not a huge role, right? An important one, but not a huge role. I think he did great. Um, I don't know, not a lot to say there. Um, if I had any criticism, he's such a distinctive presence that almost as much as Jason Momoa, it's kind of Javier Bardem playing a character. Um, I think if anything, it made him feel like he should have had a larger part in the movie, just because he has so much presence as an individual, like the actor himself. But I think he did a great job. A workmanlike performance in this film. The Doctor, his character was race and gender swapped, and did a great job. I've seen a couple people complain like, "Oh, the character's male or whatever." Utterly immaterial. Great performance. There's a lot of mystery around this character, and in the books, that is maybe more meaningful than in the movie, because you don't get a whole lot of resolution to those mysteries in the movie. But she was necessary to get characters where they need to be, and in the story, and did a great job at it. I don't know this actress, but she did an amazing job, and utterly immaterial what race or gender this character is. The character just needs to play the role and do a good job, and this actress definitely did. Great job there. And then I'm gonna bring up a couple characters that maybe they were fine, but struck me as odd in some way. The first one I want to bring up is I already talked about the Mintets. They don't take advantage of them in the movie the way they do in the books, because they're kind of hard to. They're like human computers, right? They're kind of hard to wrap your head around if you haven't read the books. So I think they make a good decision and don't really belabor the point. But David Dashmalian's character, he's a Mintet, and he played a role in the movie. It's a small role, but he's there at several points, and it's an important role. But every time he comes on, he's such a distinctive looking person. And maybe since I just seen him in earlier this year in the Suicide Squad, and I know him most from the Ant-Man movies. Every time he came on every time his character came on screen, I just heard in my head, Baba Yaga, Baba Yaga from the Ant-Man movies. Um, so I don't know. I guess his rise in popularity as an actor has made him a little harder for me to accept in this role. So pulled me out of the story a little bit. Um, but I mean, I guess that's not his fault. That's the price he pays for success. Um, so, but he did pull me out of the story. So for me, I guess I have to chalk that up as a little bit of a miss, casting wise. Um, you don't want your actors pulling people out of the story. It's one of the reasons I think you get the, oh, it's just Jason Momoa playing Jason Momoa in a movie. If that harms your story, I guess that's a legitimate criticism. For me, Jason Momoa didn't do that in this movie, and and really, I mean, the Dashmalian's character didn't really do that too, but enough for me to notice. So that was more just like a funny aside than a real detriment to the film. One thing that I really didn't care for, and might go back to me, um, was one glaring absence, and that's in Fade. Um, in the 80s movie, that was kind of Sting's big entree into the movies, Sting the singer. But that character is kind of important, and he was utterly absent in this movie. I mentioned Dave Batista, kind of like Zendaya, he was in this movie, but didn't really have much of a role. With the Harkonnens, there's three of them, right? There's the Baron, and Stellan Skarsgård, like I gushed about, was fantastic. And then you have Fade, who's played by Sting, and then the Beast, Dave Batista's character. There's three of them, and it's kind of important in the movie because, the Harkonnens aren't just this like orc-like monstrous race. They have a plan. The Baron is intimidating and powerful, but he's also like a schemer, and a good one. And he's got this plan where Dave Batista's character, the Beast, he's this brutal taskmaster who's just driving the local populace and assaulting the Fremen and just crushing Arrakis, crushing the planet of Dune with this steel fist at the Baron's behest. And the Baron's plan is to bring Fade in, to be this kind of savior figure, still Harkonnen, right? But he's the good cop, right? He comes in and by comparison is so kind and so attractive and so popular that the people will love him and really cement the Baron's control. And yeah, just entirely missing. So maybe their intent is to, in the sequel, kind of showcase Batista's character a little more as that brutal overseer and then introduce the Fade character. But it's just interesting that they didn't set that up at all, as far as I can tell. I wasn't looking for it early on, but as the movie went on, like Fade is such kind of a core character that I was like, started looking around. Is he in the background and just like not being that there's an attention being called to him, or is he just is the character entirely cut? So yeah, that was kind of my other eyebrow raising casting related thing, is where the heck is Fade? Yeah, there's other characters. The movie was really well done. It's just gorgeous. The ships are huge and on such a grand scale that that you buy it. I'm going to make a video about how Marvel has made their movies and their world so small. I pulled up some images and stuff I'm going to use for that video because I want to talk about it. But this movie didn't suffer from that at all. Like, it was so grand in scope, and the visual portrayal was enough to have you buy into that. For me, so far, I think this, and I don't think this is just recency bias. Like, I really liked I like Tomorrow War because it was fun, and good lord, we needed a fun movie. We had so many dark, dreary movies. That was good, but certainly not my favorite movie of the year. Snyderverse, loved it, or not Snyderverse, the Snyder Cut rather, loved it, but kind of is a correction of the theatrical release from an earlier movie. Like I don't think I would give that my movie of the year, but this one's close. This was a really good movie. I guess the only real strike against it is it's not a complete story. It really needs. Uh, I think as a viewer, I want the confidence from the studio that there is going to be follow-on to this story, whether it's a sequel or multiple sequels, a trilogy, four movies, whatever it takes to tell the rest of the story to this caliber. I hope their profit justifies that because I want to see it. Anyway, that's my experience with Dune so far. I hope, for me personally, I hope I like Ghostbusters better because Ghostbusters is one of my top 10 movies of all times. Been really encouraged by the news I've heard about Ghostbusters, and I still have high hope that that goes down as my favorite movie of the year. But until I see that, I think Dune holds that spot. It was really good. Very much enjoyed it. All right, that's all I got for now. I'll be back with a couple more videos. The next one, I think I'm going to talk about Marvel and how, with their storytelling, they've really made their world small. That'll probably be my next stream. But until then, bye.